As predicted by all humans who ever lived, Sega have gone and got themselves in on the mini console what connects to your television and plays old games system thing majiggy. Look, it's one of these. Look, there's a blue monster they pretend is a hedgehog. So yeah, 40 classic games plus 2 bonus titles. That's a very big number, isn't it, as compared to the other mini consoles that came out? Yeah. So if you're not aware of what this is indeed a console that connects to your television and has some built-in games that you can never really add anything to unless somebody's worked out how to hack it, which I'm sure they already have, because, you know, that's the way these things work. And yeah, it's just an easy way, really, to get a nostalgia hit on your old games. Now, there have been loads of these out recently. There was the Nintendo NES one, which was pretty good. There was the Super Nintendo one, which was pretty good. There was the Neo Geo one, which was disappointing. There was the PlayStation one, which was pretty shit, to be honest, with bad emulation, a bad selection of games, and all the games were bad PAL conversions, and it wasn't good. In fact, it was so not good that I bought one and then never actually reviewed it because I found it so damn depressing, which just goes to show it wasn't good. Apparently you can hack it and make it a lot better now. Maybe I should do a video on that. Anyway, we're looking at the Mega Drive one. Who remembers the Mega Drive? Then everyone. Everyone, even if you weren't born and you lived in a cave and only came out of the cave today, you know what a Mega Drive is. We'll just get on with it. It was, of course, called the Dendy in America. No, it wasn't. It was called the Genesis. That confused you for a second, didn't it? So, yeah, 42 games, it says. We should probably see what those are, looking on the back, because it's a very high number. Very high number. Super Nintendo one had 20. PlayStation had 20, NES had 30, this has 42 bloody games. And I tell you what, it's a bloody good selection too. But we shall come back and look at that shortly, because now I want to show you what the actual hardware itself is like, because that's kind of what we do on this channel mostly, innit? Here it is, in all its blast processing, high-definition graphics, stereo sound, 16-bit glory, but with USB ports, where once upon a time there were little 9-pin connectors. Yeah, I mean, it really looks the part. They've done a really nice job of it. Yeah, it's got a nice feel to it. It's got a bit of weight to it, not that particularly matters. I mean, you wouldn't want it super, super light, because it'd, like, fall off your table or something when you were using it. The volume thing moves, look. It doesn't do anything though, sadly. It doesn't control the volume, which is a shame. Been quite nice in a way if you could have just put the volume down by doing that. But you cannot, I'm afraid. Although having said that, would you really want to reach forward and turn down the volume there? Mind you, got to reach forward to reset anyway. Who cares? Power button works as you would expect. Reset button does its stuff. Yep. There is no cartridge port, but it does have the flaps that open. Apparently, you can buy from Japan or whatsoever's like a Mega CD to go underneath it, and a 32X to go in it, and then a cartridge. I mean, none of them actually do anything. They're just there for the look of it. So you've got your tower of power, as opposed to just the standard Mega Drive. Which is, if you particularly want that on your shelf, that is a thing you can do. I've got a real tower of power, though, like all good-hearted people. So there we are. Yeah, I mean, it really does look absolutely the part. You just haven't got a hole where the headphone socket went. You've got USB at the side, and obviously HDMI out, and a standard micro USB in at the back. Quick look at other things you get in the box. Instructions. That was fun. You also get, we picked up the wrong thing there, an HDMI cable. That's always handy. You get a micro USB lead, but no power adapter. Which is one of those things I still think in the back of my head will always give us a power adapter, but I do appreciate that everybody and their nan have 1,000 bloody USB power adapters from 100 phones. Now, the important things, the controllers. You get 2 of them. Here's one, there's the other. So they're based on the earlier designs, where they've got the red writing on the buttons. And yeah, they mostly feel the part. Mostly. The plastic, it feels a little bit sort of rougher and cheaper, maybe. And the control pads themselves are considerably lighter than the real thing. Yeah, there's a distinct lack of heft and weight as for the originals, but that's not a massive problem. The buttons feel good, the D-pad works and feels pretty much as it did back in the day, so that's all positive. Less bloody positive is that in Japan they get the 6-button controllers. I know we have much bigger nostalgia for these over here, but 6 buttons is more useful because you can use it in more games. Although, to be fair, I think there's only like one game where you really need it on it. But still, it's irritating. Although apparently you can just buy like a 6-button pad. The retro bit ones just plug in and work. And they're very nice, about 20 quiddish. So there we are. So yeah, a little bit lighter than the original, but still pretty good. And, of course, USB. And unlike those bloody PlayStation ones, just plug this into just plugged it straight into my Windows PC and it picked it up and worked perfectly, which is lovely. A nice generic controller, probably very useful if you've got a Raspberry Pi or similar too. So look, here's that model from Retro Collect. It's slightly smaller, and I just thought I'd show them side by side to demonstrate the fact that this is a really good model. I was going to say, I mean, the differences are obviously... But you see, the thing is, although these ports aren't as they were back in the day, these ones are just stickers, so does it really matter? I bet the people who made this were proper annoyed when Sega said they were actually going to release a mini one that plays games. Anyway, that is not relevant. Here is a thing! What's this thing look like when it's working then? Well, you get a nice menu and all that kind of stuff. Title music by Yuzo Koshiro, who of course did Streets of Rage and is therefore one of the greatest humans to have ever existed in this timeline. And yeah, it plays all your old games, as you would totally expect. It also adds save and load states, which is nice. There's no rewind system, so that's not quite as nice as the Nintendo ones, but still, being able to save and load is bloody useful, so you know you don't have to start your games from scratch like you had to back in the day. Now, the big question, of course, is what is the emulation like? Well, I'm very pleased to say it's bloody good. So this was put together by M2, not At Games. Sega released a load of these things from a company called, licensed it to a company called At Games. They're all bloody awful. Awful! I spit on them, I do. Pa, pa, pa. M2 have done a fantastic job. They're the guys who did the Sega Ages collections for the consoles, if I recall correctly, and yeah, really good stuff. The emulation is absolutely spot on. The music and things often sounds off on emulated Mega Drive stuff, but no, they've got it spot on. The only thing I noticed, and I genuinely don't know if this is valid or not, sometimes the sound effects seemed like they were very slightly behind where they should be, coming in very slightly late, but only like a couple of the sound effects, and it didn't seem to be... This could be me just being weird, frankly, or overly sensitive, because I didn't really notice it after it had been going a while. Maybe it's just me being off, but it felt like you'd pick up a ring in Sonic and there'd be like a tiny micro delay before the sound effects, but then it didn't happen with those sound effects. So yeah, maybe just ignore me being weird on that one. So, the big question is, can you have crap scan lines across the screen in a pathetic attempt at CRT emulation? Yes, you can. They call it CRT emulation. Yeah, it's just some crap scan lines. Don't turn those on. You're good people. Don't do it to yourselves. And there's also the horrible option to stretch everything to widescreen so everything looks dreadful. I don't know why somebody would do that. Probably because they're absolutely mad. So, let's have a look at these 42 bloody games. And as I said, far more games than any of the competition consoles. And to be honest, a much better selection. It's a fucking phenomenal selection of games. Let us go through them all in tedious attention to detail. So, they've started off with Streets of Rage 2, which, as science has proved, is the greatest game ever made. There's World of Illusion with Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck, which is very, very nice. It's a really nice, fun platformer. Now, this is interesting. They've gone for Shinobi 3 rather than Revenge of Shinobi. Revenge of Shinobi is the one that I always think of with the Mega Drive. I think as most people I knew with Mega Drives actually had that game. Whereas I never played on Shinobi 3 until the days of emulation. But it is arguably a better game. So they've gone for the good one. I can totally get that. You've got Alex Kidd. Who remembers him? I'd actually forgotten he had a Mega Drive outing. If I recall, it's not very good, so that's the end of that. There's Alicia Dragoon, which is an interesting tale of a young lady with Emperor Palpatine-like lightning powers and her collection of very dangerous pets. I remember it being quite difficult. I need to go back and put some proper time in, see if it is not. Bloody Altered Beast. Let's be honest here, guys, it's not a good game. It was one that came with the Mega Drive over here, so we all played it because it's all we had, but yeah, it's a bit clunky. It's interesting and it's unique in its way, but it's not a marvellous game. It's worth turning on just to hear it go, "Rise from your grave," and all that stuff. Story of Thor, or what was it called in America? Not in America, in Japan. Beyond Oasis. Yeah, Beyond Oasis. It's really weird they call it the Story of Thor, because it's got like a sort of Arabian guy in it, if I recall. Anyway, it's a kind of top-down Zelda-y RPG thing, and it's very good. Very large, chunky sprites. It's a very pleasing one. Castle of Illusion with Mickey Mouse. Earlier version, really, of World of Illusion, and again, very good game indeed. Probotector. It's got robots where it should have men. So Probotector was the European release of Contra Hardcore, where they replaced kind of all the characters with robots. Apparently it was done for the German market to get around censorship laws. They just kind of released it to all of Europe. It's all very odd. But I tell you what, guys, if you change the language of your unit, which is easily done through a menu, in fact, when you first turn it on, it asks you what language you want, and you change it to Japanese, you get the Japanese versions of all of these games. So you get Contra Hardcore rather than Probotector, which is noticeably different, which is bloody brilliant. So you get, Bare Knuckle 2 rather than Streets of Rage 2 and that kind of thing, which is a fantastic addition, frankly, because, some of the games are noticeably different. Comic Zone is a scrolling beat-em-up and a sort of weird one where you're trapped inside a comic book. It's pretty good. Actually, quite good fun. Columns, the classic Sega puzzler. Yeah, I don't think that really holds up the same way other action puzzler games do, but it's still a laugh for a short period of time. They couldn't not include Columns either, because it was kind of their attempts to beat Tetris at the times was very heavily marketed. You've got Castlevania, the New Generation, which is quite well thought of, I believe. I've never put any serious time into it, but I hear good things. MW4 is Monster World 4, which is one of them Wonder Boy stroke Monster World games. As a continuation of that, it's very good. Very good fun platformer. Mega Man and the Wily Wars is a good Mega Man, I am told. Again, not a game I've ever put any time into. Never really played any of the Mega Man games extensively, but yeah, people like it. Light Crusader is interesting. That is an isometric RPG with heavy action elements, and it is pretty bloody good, actually. Landstalker is also an isometric RPG with action elements. I've never played Landstalker, but I got really obsessed with its sort of spiritual successor, Dark Saviour, on the Sega Saturn. But yeah, Landstalker, again, very well thought of game. Kid Chameleon, really good fun platformer. Gunstar Heroes is, of course, fantastic. A run and gun platformer, bloody difficult, really inventive, really good fun. It's one of those things I never heard of back in the day, but yeah, when emulation became a thing and I discovered it, I was very impressed. Very impressed. I think it was bigger in America than it was over here, but it is a great game. Golden Axe is an excellent conversion of the arcade classic. Gonna be honest, I don't think Golden Axe holds up that well. It's too much of just repeatedly tapping one button, really. It lacks the variety that makes a really good side-scrolling brawler. It falls into the Final Fight camp of just, I don't know, it's a little bit samey in it. It's certainly no Streets of Rage 2, put it that way, but hey, it's still a laugh, innit? Get your mate round, play it for a bit, then play something else. That's how the world works. Ghouls and Ghosts, a fantastic conversion of the arcade machine. Absolutely fantastic. Don't get it confused with Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which was the Super Nintendo game, which is a totally different game. Is not based on the arcade version. It's also brilliant, actually, really bloody good. But yeah, this is a fantastic conversion of a fantastic game. Eternal Bloody Champions, one of the better beat-em-ups that came out in the wake of Street Fighter 2. I don't think it really holds up. It's a bit slow, it's not amazing, but it's also not bad. It's certainly something that has to be on here if you're talking about classic Mega Drive games, again, because it was pushed so hard, so many people had copies, blah blah blah. You can still have some fun with it, particularly in two-player mode. Ecco the Dolphin, a weird game where you're a dolphin who's sort of dealing with aliens, just like normal life. It's really good. Really good. People talk about it in hushed tones as if it's something great, and that's because, frankly, it is something great. It's a really interesting, fun game. Earthworm Jim, really quality platformer with cartoony graphics and an excellent sense of humour and fun. Bit fiddly in places if I recall, but yeah, really, really good game. Dynamite Heady, really good platform game again, with lots of dynamite and heads. It makes sense if you play it. Yeah, really, really good. Phantasy Star 4 is one of the most beloved of the Phantasy Star games, I believe. Again, I have not played this one myself. In fact, I didn't really know these Phantasy Star games existed until I played Phantasy Star Online on the Dreamcast. My God, going back in the day there. But yeah, really, really well-liked game. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is the Japanese game Puyo Puyo, but with different graphics because, you know, they changed it to tie in with Sega. There's Sonic the Hedgehog stuff in the English-speaking territories. But hey, select Japanese, you can play it as Puyo Puyo if you want, and why wouldn't you want to? Well, it doesn't matter, it's the same bloody game, just slightly different graphics. You get pictures of robots rather than anime faces in the middle of the screen. Road Rash 2. I mean, I love Road Rash, but Road Rash 2 is the pinnacle of the Road Rashes, I feel. PlayStation version's interesting as well, and the 3DO version, which was the same sort of thing, but Mega Drive Road Rash 2, yeah, fantastic. If you've never played it, you drive along on a high-speed motorcycle and beat the shit out of other people on motorcycles to knock them off. It's great. Shining Force. I bloody love Shining Force. Turn-based strategy, really excellent example. The only weakness is really, if you want to play Shining Force, there was a sort of modern remastered version on the Game Boy Advance, which is better, but the Mega Drive version is still great. I'd like to have seen Shining Force 2 as well. For some reason I never completed it, and I'd have liked to have had a go at that again. I suppose I'll just have to emulate it, because why wouldn't you? Sonic Spinball. I was never a massive fan of Sonic Spinball, but most people did get quite a lot of enjoyment out of it. I'm not sure I would have wanted to have paid the prices of the day for Sonic Spinball, but considering it's on here for like £1.60 or whatever, if you add them all up and divide them by how many there are, you can't complain at that. Sonic the Hedgehog is Sonic the bloody Hedgehog. I mean, it's fantastic. It's great. It's beloved for a reason. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the same, but arguably a bit better. I prefer the soundtrack of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, but that's not particularly relevant to this. Really, you've got the real high end of the Sonic stuff there. Sonic CD would have been nice as well, but hey, that's a Mega CD game. They're not getting into that. Space Harrier 2. I didn't like Space Harrier too much. Possibly you did. I didn't. There we are, that's the end of that. Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. This was the big one that was heavily advertised for the old Mega Drive. You could play as the bosses and things. This is where you want the bloody 6-button pad, isn't it? Because it's a pain in the arse. Oh no, 3 buttons to say the least. So, a bit of a shame, that. And also, if they were going for Street Fighter 2 on the Mega Drive, I would go for the Super version. Super Street Fighter 2 is a really great version on the Mega Drive. But there we are. Strider. Arcade classic. Used to really love this game. Can't really get into it anymore. Don't know why. Possibly because I played it too bloody much, but it's a really good conversion of a really good game. Sort of weird Russian set platformer in the future with a man and a funny sword. It's really, really good. Super Fantasy Zone. Really nice side-scrolling shooter with cartoony graphics. Loads of fun. You've got Thunder Force 3, which again, side-scrolling shooter. And yeah, very good one. Very good one. Actually, probably my favourite Mega Drive shoot-em-up, probably, but I haven't played them all. So don't listen to me. Just play Toe Jam and Earl, because that's a really interesting and strange game. Sort of arcade adventure type thing with very strange characters. Really good fun. Vector Man. I remember Vector Man being crap for some reason, and I loaded it up to play it on this, and it was actually pretty good. I'd somehow got it confused with something else. Don't know what. But yeah, platform game, slightly sort of run and gun elements, just quite nice fun, and your character is made out of baubles, because that's a thing. Virtua Fighter 2. Oh dear. Very sad for this to take up a slot, to be perfectly honest with you. And no, it's not the good Virtua Fighter 2 that's in 3D, you remember. Oh no, this is an awful Virtua Fighter 2 Mega Drive thing, where they've basically translated it to 2D, and well, I'll be showing you footage of it while this is going on. It does not play well. It does not hold up. It was bad at the time and it's still bad now. And Wonder Boy in Monster World, another really bloody good Wonder Boy platform fun game. Yay! Fun times. Again, a really obvious addition, but a really important one. Now, here's the weird shit, guys. 2 bonus titles, right, of games that weren't released for the Mega... Well, no. Actually, I take that back entirely. Yes, 2 games that weren't released for the Mega Drive. This is really weird. So there's a conversion of the arcade game Darius, and it's basically a new port of the arcade game. It was never released for the Mega Drive. And there's some weird controversy over this because it's incredibly similar to a fan port of the game made by a guy called Hardcade. But when asked about it, Sega went, oh no, this is a brand new thing made by M2. But the Hardcade guy seems to have taken all references to his game down from the internet, and it is painfully similar. So really don't know what's going on there, but yeah, that's all brand new. It's an odd choice because the Darius arcade machine had 3 monitors in a row, so it's incredibly ultra widescreen, which obviously it's 4x3 on your home consoles. Gonna be honest, never liked Darius. Always found it fiddly and annoying, but it's a really, really solid conversion of it. And finally, bloody Tetris. Now, this confused me because I thought this was going to be the infamous unreleased, well, very slightly released, there's like, I don't know, 5 copies or something ridiculous out there, Sega version of Tetris, where basically Sega had the license to make like an arcade version of Tetris, and then made it for the Mega Drive to discover that their license didn't cover that, and Nintendo were like, no, we can make home versions, blah. And then there was some sort of kaiju battle. I think that's how legal matters are resolved in the game industry. Anyway, yeah, I assumed they'd just released that at last, but no, this is actually a new arcade port of Tetris, so there we are, and apparently plays considerably better. I've played it. I thought it was very good. It is a very nice version. So that's nice, isn't it? All these brand new things. Blimey, that was a lot of things, wasn't it? So yeah, the game selection is fucking phenomenal, frankly. Just really good all the way across the board. Only a couple of minor duffers in there. Well, I'm going to say that Virtua Fighter 2, the 2D one, is pretty much a duffer, but there's nothing else properly bad in there. I mean, Altered Beast isn't great, but Altered Beast almost has to be on it by law, do you know what I mean? It was such a big Mega Drive thing. Ah, dearie me. Yeah, so really good emulation, really nice physical unit, really good control pads that just work by default on Windows, for crying out loud, and fantastic gaming selection. Not only just a great selection, but far more than the other retro consoles gave you. I mean, like, over twice as many as the Super Nintendo and the PlayStation gave you. Absolutely ridiculous. Marvellous stuff. For my money, which is literally £70, because that's how much these things cost. 70 of your finest pounds, sir. You can get one of these. Now, gotta say, this is the best mini console released by a country mile. It's just got such a huge amount of really good games on it, and all the hardware's in place. It's tip-top. Fantastic job from Sega there. And considering how shit their previous offerings have been through AT-Games, it really is a bit of a revelation. In fact, I'm jump cutting to the box. If you want one of these, make sure you buy one in a box that looks like this so you don't accidentally buy one of the horrible old AT-Games versions, because you will be very disappointed, my friends, very disappointed. Anyway, I'm going to give the final word to Animated Ramirez. Oh, look how happy the Mega Drive Mini has made him. I love you, Animated Ramirez.
Subscribe for more.